Chapter 1. A New Franchise.
Morning, David. Come in. How are you?
David Fox entered the London office of Australian TV magnate Bruce Kemp. He smiled as Bruce stood up to shake his hand. Bruce was tall, slim, and very athletic. David, on the other hand, was not so tall, not slim, and definitely not athletic.
I'm fine, thanks, Bruce. It's good to see you.
He looked around the room. On the walls were photos of famous TV stars, pictures, and a map of Australia. Near the door was a cabinet full of shiny TV awards. Kanga TV was a very successful network. David Fox's channel, Trent TV, was doing well at the moment, but David wanted more. So what could Bruce Kemp offer him? Bruce smiled back.
There's another person involved in this meeting. Ah, here she is now.
The door opened again. This time David didn't smile. An elegant woman with short red hair entered the room. "Hello, David. It's so nice to see you." There was a lack of sincerity in her voice.
Anna, you look lovely,
said David coldly. Anna Webb was the head of Channel Webb, David's biggest rival in the fight for TV viewers. Bruce observed the frosty greeting with interest. Then he began to speak.
My TV network, Kanga TV, has decided to branch out and offer our viewers a more varied choice of international programmes. We want Australians to have an alternative view on the world's different cultures. So I'm going to offer one of you the franchise of a new satellite channel.
David opened his mouth to speak.
When will it start broadcasting?
At the end of the year,
replied Bruce.
I'm more interested in the quality of programmes than the money offered for the franchise, so over the next few weeks I'm going to monitor 4 of your most popular kinds of programmes. One on music, the news, an outside broadcast, and a satellite link. The TV channel that produces the highest quality will win the franchise. Are there any questions?
David was so excited he could hardly speak, but he had to say something before Anna did.
Bruce, this is a great opportunity, and I feel honoured that you are considering Trent TV for the franchise. Our ratings have increased steadily for the past 5 years. Last month we signed a new advertising contract which will increase our budget. We have an experienced, highly qualified team, and our motto is inform, educate, entertain.
He was interrupted by Anna. "You stole my best director and researcher."
All's fair in love and war,
grinned David. "At least you can't steal the awards Channel Webb won last month for Best Soap. I've worked in television since I was 20, and my success shows that," she answered back. David glared at her.
So have I,
he snapped. Bruce quickly intervened.
Now let's discuss things in more detail.
2 hours later, Bruce ended the meeting.
I'm going back to Australia tomorrow, but I intend to keep a very close eye on events. Remember, your fate is in your hands. Good luck to you both.
David was overjoyed as he hurriedly left the office. Today had already been great, and it was about to get better. Chapter 2. A New Face at Trent TV. David Fox's son, Simon, had just graduated from university with a degree in media studies and, to David's joy, had decided to follow in his father's footsteps. David was therefore a happy man when he met his senior employees on Monday afternoon. He had just explained to them about Bruce Kemp's franchise offer and what Trent TV had to do to win it.
That's fantastic news,
said Rav, the technical director.
Just imagine, Australians will soon be able to watch the programmes that we produce.
Jenny Walker, the director, was more cautious. We haven't won yet. Don't underestimate Anna Webb. I know her well, and she'll do everything she can to get the franchise. David looked at the three people in the room. He had met Jenny 2 years ago when she worked for Channel Web and had immediately offered her a job at Trent TV. Jenny had accepted, and Anna Webb hadn't forgiven either of them. As director, Jenny made the decisions and gave the orders to Rav. It was his responsibility to push the right buttons at the right time. Sally Truman was the production assistant and was extremely efficient. She made sure that everyone involved in the programme was ready and in the right place. "We are a good team and I believe we can win," said Sally. The others nodded in agreement and began to discuss the challenge. There was a knock at the door.
Can I come in?
Said a voice hesitantly. David jumped to his feet.
At last! Everyone, you all know my son, Simon. He is going to join our team and I'm sure he will be a great asset in the future.
Jenny and Rav congratulated Simon, but were not happy. Simon had little experience in the field of TV. They needed to concentrate all their efforts on the franchise, not on helping a new employee.
Now, Rav, Simon wants to be a technical director, so I want you to teach him everything you know.
Both Jenny and Sally smiled, but Rav didn't.
Sure,
he replied. The next day, Rav took Simon to the gallery.
It's amazing,
whispered Simon.
There's so much equipment.
Rav laughed and began to explain everything around them.
Here on the wall, there are lots of monitors which show what is going on in the studio, which is broadcasting the programme, and also in the other studios. That sign is lit up when a programme is on air. And this is where we all sit. I don't want you to touch anything, as it is all set up for the next programme, Pop World.
Simon moved to where Rav had sat down.
Is this the mixing desk?
He asked.
Yes. I'm sure you know that all our equipment is digital.
I know that an analogue signal is a continuous electronic wave that imitates the shape of the sound wave, but how is digital TV different from the old analogue system?
The term digital refers to a method of converting information into an electrical signal by translating that information into bits, a simple code, in the form of ones and zeros. This gives a stronger and more reliable signal, and...
Rav stopped suddenly as Simon's hand moved towards the mixing desk.
What does this button do?
Chapter 3. The First Mistake. Rav grabbed Simon's arm and pulled him back.
I told you not to touch anything,
he said angrily.
I'm sorry,
apologised Simon.
I'm just so excited I can't wait to start work.
Rav smiled.
OK. Now, we were talking about digital TV, weren't we?
What are the main advantages of a digital signal?
Asked Simon. Rav replied,
There's no distortion or degradation of the signal, so the picture quality is much better. And, of course, digital information can be stored in memory to make random access possible. That's why we have computers here in the gallery.
And the resolution creates better quality, doesn't it?
Added Simon.
That's right. A digital TV screen displays more pixels and this improves detail, crispness, image stability and sound. Now, why don't you go down and see the Pop World studio?
When Simon entered Studio 3, Sally was talking to Katie Young, the presenter of Pop World. Hi, Simon. Come and meet Katie Young. She's presenting Pop World at 6 o'clock. Simon shook hands with a pretty girl dressed in the latest fashions. They showed him the set of the programme. As they were chatting, the studio door opened. Simon couldn't believe his eyes. It was Juliet, his favourite singer.
Juliet is our guest star today,
explained Katie. She laughed as Juliet said hello, and Simon blushed. This was his dream come true, but he couldn't say anything. Sally saved him. Let's go back to the gallery and prepare for the programme. See you all later. Come on, Simon. Back in the gallery, everyone was in position. There were only 5 minutes before the start of Pop World. Everyone was nervous. Jenny spoke to her staff. OK, this is the first programme that Kanga TV is monitoring, so we all need to concentrate. Remember the franchise. Sally, start the countdown. Rav, start the music and set up the first shot. Let's go! Simon was sitting between Sally and Rav. He watched as Sally spoke to Katie in Studio 3 and Rav pressed some switches and said,
Cue camera 1 on Katie.
Simon saw Katie's smiling face appear on the monitor under the on-air sign. As the programme began, Simon looked around. Sally was busy talking to the floor manager and Katie on the set. Jenny was watching the monitors and shouting instructions to Rav. Everything was going well. Then Simon saw Juliet come into the studio. She was so beautiful. He was watching the interview when Rav touched his arm.
Simon, on this piece of paper is the title of Juliet's new song. When I tell you, use the keyboard in front of you to key in the title and then press Enter. The computer will then select the song. Do you think you can do it?
Simon was so happy to be involved.
Don't worry, Rav. I won't let you down.
While he was waiting, he looked at the title. The writing was so bad that some letters were unclear. He decided to ask Rav, but at that moment Rav said,
Now!
Simon saw Juliet standing with a microphone in her hand. He took a deep breath, put in the title and pressed Enter. Then they all heard the voice of... Chapter 4. Who's to blame? Frank Sinatra! Yelled Jenny. What's going on? Rav, stop the song! Change to camera 1, then change the track! Rav immediately did as he was told. The voice of Frank Sinatra singing My Way had shocked everyone, especially Juliet. They all watched Katie closely on the monitor. Well, that's my mum's favourite song, but I'm sure that now Juliet will sing us her new song, My Day. The sound of Juliet's voice filled the studio, and the sound of Jenny's voice filled the gallery. Now can somebody please explain what happened? I told you all to concentrate! Everyone in the gallery started speaking at once.
Oh, we've already done it now. Oh,
But they all fell silent as the door opened. And David Fox burst into the room.
Is this some kind of joke? Do you all realise that Bruce Kemp is watching Pop World? I don't think he will be too impressed with our performance so far. Who's the culprit?
All eyes fell on Simon.
I'm so sorry. Rav asked me if I could key in the title of the song, but I couldn't read his writing. There was no time to ask him for clarification, so I had to guess what the letters were.
Jenny, Rav and Sally again spoke at once.
I
didn't you? Simon's father came to his rescue.
Silence! As I see it, both Simon and Rav are to blame. Rav, I asked you to help Simon, not to make things difficult for him. Now, Juliet's song is about to finish, so get back to your places. We'll discuss this later.
It was now 7:30 in the evening, and Simon was in Jenny's office. He was sitting in a corner away from Jenny's glare. Jenny and David were discussing the next day's lunchtime news, the second programme to be monitored by Kanga TV. So, David, do you agree on the content and the order of the news items? Asked Jenny. David smiled.
I think it's perfect. I've asked Gordon to come as soon as he's free, so he can give us his opinion. Has the auto cue been written?
Before Jenny could answer, there was a knock on the door. And a rather robust, middle-aged man entered the room. It was Gordon Wright, Trent TV's news anchorman.
Gordon, this is the script for tomorrow. What do you think?
Said David, as he handed him a sheet of paper. Gordon read it quickly.
It's fine,
he observed.
We'll start with the item about the Prime Minister, unless a more important story comes in. Is the autocue ready?
We were just discussing that, replied Jenny. There's just one more article to write.
Maybe Simon could do it,
suggested David. Simon looked hopeful. Jenny looked doubtful, and Gordon looked very annoyed.
David, I've heard about your son's contribution to Pop World, and I don't want him to be involved in my programme. I have a reputation. The viewers always get perfection from me. We can't afford to make another mistake.
Jenny didn't like Gordon very much. He could be so arrogant. She said, Simon, can you write a short, perfect article for the autocue about a new film that's out this week? Here's the journalist's report. Simon grinned.
Don't worry, Jenny. I won't let you down.
Chapter 5. Gordon gets angry.
How do you know what to shoot?
Asked Simon. He was in Studio 1 talking to Joe, a camera operator. Joe replied,
The director decides, and the technical director gives me instructions which I hear through my earpiece.
It sounds interesting,
said Simon.
I honestly don't know how a camera works. Is it very complicated?
Joe smiled.
Well, first the light from a scene in the studio comes through the lens and is divided into the 3 primary colours, red, blue and green. Then the beams of light are directed into a tube and converted into electrical signals. After that, an audio signal is added, and finally the composite signal is sent to the transmitter.
It is complicated, but I get the picture,
joked Simon.
Oh, very funny,
laughed Joe.
What's this under the lens?
Asked Simon.
It's the teleprompter. It's the screen from which the presenter reads the script. It's under the lens so that the presenter appears to be looking at the viewer, but in reality is reading. It's often called the autocue.
Autocue? Help!
cried Simon.
I haven't written the article for the news item.
And he ran out of the studio to the nearest computer. There wasn't much time. Simon quickly read the journalist's article about the new film and then typed as fast as he could. He was in such a rush that he forgot to use the spell checker and didn't print a hard copy for Gordon. He sent the article as an attachment to the lunchtime news autocue file and then hurried to the gallery. 3, 2, 1, cue Gordon, said Jenny. The face of Gordon Wright appeared.
Welcome to the Lunchtime News. We begin today with a report on the Prime Minister's visit to the United States.
A photo of the Prime Minister came onto the plasma screen to the left of Gordon.
The Prime Minister was taken to the White House to meet the President and to discuss economic and foreign policies. We can now go to our correspondent in Washington for an update.
Jenny looked at Rav and smiled. The news was going well. The link to Washington had been done perfectly, and no mistakes had been made so far.
It's all looking good,
whispered Rav. Gordon continued to read in his totally professional way. As the news progressed, he moved the autocue with his foot by using a pedal under his desk.
And now we come to our final item. The new action film, Bad, will being released this afternoon in London.
Will being? Afternoon? Said Sally. What's the matter with him? Gordon hesitated for a second and then continued.
The film has some of Hollywood's biggest names. For example, George...
Again, Gordon stopped. The end of the sentence was missing. He glanced down at the desk to find the hard copy. He quickly looked through the sheets of paper but couldn't find it. There was a look of panic on his face. He began to feel hot. Then in his earpiece he heard Jenny say, "Go to the link!" He looked at the camera and said,
Let's go to our reporter to find out more.
As soon as the camera was off, Gordon yelled,
Someone is in big trouble.
Chapter 6. Who's winning? The door of the gallery flew open, and Gordon appeared. He was furious. Jenny stepped forward to try and calm him down. Now, Gordon, don't be so upset.
Don't be upset? Did you see what happened? I looked a complete idiot. Me, Gordon Wright. The autocue script was full of spelling mistakes, and some of the sentences weren't even finished. Is Trent TV a professional TV company or not? And as for you, new boy,
he shouted as he moved closer to Simon. Simon quickly took a step back and decided that standing behind Rav was a good idea. It was time to apologise. Again.
I'm so sorry. I forgot to check the article for spelling mistakes, and I really don't know what happened to the other sentences.
I knew it would be a disaster to let you help,
shouted Gordon. He glared at Jenny and added,
If anything like this happens again, I'll resign. Is that clear?
And with that, he stormed out. Simon breathed a sigh of relief, but became worried again when Jenny said, "David wants to see us in his office. Let's go."
So, let's look at the situation so far,
suggested David. "We've made mistakes in both monitored programs, so things are looking grim," said Jenny. David didn't want to accuse his son directly, so he just said,
Simon, you really must be more careful. If we continue to get things wrong, we won't get the franchise.
Simon didn't know what to say as Jenny added, "Channel Web has done everything perfectly so far." David sighed.
Yes, Anna took great pleasure in telling me that when she phoned earlier. If we're not careful, Channel Web will win. Anna's already speaking with an Australian accent.
Simon laughed, but then he saw the look on his father's face.
Anyway,
continued David,
our next programme to be monitored is the outside broadcast. It's on Monday, and we're doing an item about crop circles. Rav, I want you to be in charge in the van, and Simon will assist you.
Both Jenny and Rav opened their mouths to speak.
And that's final,
said David. Simon was once more grateful to his father.
I've never done anything like this before. Rav, what's the van like?
It's a mobile TV studio. Inside there are some monitors and a mixing desk. We have a camera operator to shoot the film and a transmission aerial on the top of the van to send the signal back to the studio.
By satellite?
Asked Simon.
That's right,
replied Rav.
Our aerial sends the signal to a satellite, which reflects it back to Earth, to the TV station. Satellites are positioned at 35,700 kilometres from the Earth, so they can move in a geostationary orbit. That means they follow the Earth's movement at the same speed, but their position doesn't change.
Rav was interrupted when the phone rang. David picked up the receiver.
Hello, Bruce. How nice to hear from you.
Jenny and Rav looked anxiously at each other. David heard Bruce say,
Please be at Channel Web Studios tonight at 11. There will be a video conference link between you, Anna, and me. David, I'm sure you realize that we need to talk.
Chapter 7. Australia Calling. David Fox walked into the reception of Channel Web. He was not looking forward to this meeting with Bruce Kemp. It was almost 11 o'clock at night, so a security guard took him to Anna Webb's office. When he entered the room, he saw Anna on a big TV screen in front of him. A technician had a remote control in his hand. He pressed a button and the camera on the TV zoomed in closer so that only Anna's face was visible. When David closed the door, he saw that Anna was sitting opposite the TV. "Ah, David, come in. We're just checking that all the equipment for the link with Australia is working. Don't you have video conferencing facilities at Trent TV?" she asked innocently. David smiled and said,
Why spend all that money when I can use yours?
Before she could reply, the screen flickered and Bruce Kemp's face appeared.
Good day, or should I say good night,
laughed Bruce.
I hope you haven't been waiting for too long. I've been making notes about your progress so far.
David tried to smile but couldn't. Anna instinctively moved towards the microphone in front of her to speak. Well, I'm sure you have no complaints with what you've seen from Channel Web.
Well, I've been impressed with both TV stations, but there's still lots of room for improvement. I'll show you what I mean,
said Bruce. He looked at a small TV on his left, pressed a button on the remote control in his hand, and to his dismay, David saw Juliet trying to sing over the voice of Frank Sinatra. As Anna laughed, the shot changed to Gordon Wright looking very worried as he searched through the papers on his desk.
I can explain,
David said quickly.
Everyone at Trent TV has been working really hard since we heard about the franchise, and...
Well, I'm afraid their effort has not been good enough,
interrupted Bruce.
I have very high standards and I expect the best.
Anna was enjoying herself. She smiled and nodded first at David, then at Bruce, who looked at her.
Anna, I'm not sure why you look so happy. Trent TV has made no mistakes with its advertising, but I can't say the same for you. I've been watching your advertising for 3 days, and on 2 occasions the adverts shown have not been at all suitable for the time slot.
The TV in Bruce's office again showed evidence of what Bruce had just said. The smile on Anna's face moved to David's. Bruce softened his voice a little.
I still have 2 more programmes to monitor. The next one is the outside broadcast. Which programmes have you chosen? He asked, looking at them.
We're going to do an item about crop circles, which have been in the news a lot recently,
said David.
It will be a live broadcast in the middle of the countryside by one of our most experienced reporters.
Anna, we're going to shoot the 100th episode of our most popular soap, Southside, on location. The director's been planning it since March. At the end of the episode, the identity of a criminal will be revealed. It'll be great. David's face fell. Could things get any worse?